Anna Jones.
Hello, everyone.
Anna, this is Big Feastival. Big Feastival. This is
Hi,
Anna.
Big Feastival.
How you doing?
It's very nice to be here. Yeah, really good, really good.
Good.
Had a slightly breakneck drive from London this morning.
Did you come up this morning?
Did come this morning.
How was the traffic?
Oh yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful, as always.
As always.
So yeah, no, but really happy to be here.
Oh, so you've literally got
And
out
the
your
sun's-
car, done the first demo over at the table sessions.
You know,
Yeah.
just like to do it that way. It's just the best way, isn't it? Just, motor
good.
through it all. So
And are you-
yeah,
are
no,
you,
it's lovely being here and it's
Are you
lovely
staying,
doing some
you
cooking.
staying tonight, or are you...
Staying the night, so yeah, going to make the most of everything this evening.
Very good.
Go and hang out. Yeah.
Anyone else come up this morning, or are you all hardcore campers? Hardcore.
Hardcore.
Hardcore, we like that.
Hardcore, I
We like
it.
that. So you've been a busy lady.
Yeah.
New book.
Yeah. It came out in July.
I mean, the last one wasn't that long ago.
No, the last one was almost exactly a year before.
Oh, okay,
so,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been sort of doing everyone one a year.
One a year.
Learnt from Jamie, learnt from the best.
Yeah.
So, can't take my foot off the brake.
You're not going to do the same with child, not one a year.
I don't think so.
Fine,
I don't
okay.
think so. My grandma did have 12 children and was constantly pregnant for 9 years. So, I mean, it's in the family.
Oh, dear.
But no, that's not
But
my intention.
Cookbooks are easier than children, I find.
Well, once it's done, you can put it on a shelf.
And for those of you who don't, yeah, exactly, yeah. And it might make you money rather than cost you money, unlike children. Mine are not here today, they're here tomorrow. I can say things about them. Now, for those people that don't know your cooking or your career so far, obviously you worked with Jamie for an awfully long time.
Yeah, I did. I worked with him for nearly 7 years.
Right.
Which was an incredible sort of roller coaster of an experience, really. I started off just as he was doing the school dinners campaign, and then kind of tapped out just after he'd finished the 30-minute meals thing.
7 years ago?
Well, no, that was much longer ago.
Oh, okay.
I stopped working with him 4 or 5 years ago.
Right,
so, yeah,
okay.
It was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good while ago.
Oh, fine.
So yeah, it was the sort of full trajectory of kind of the sort of crazy roller coaster he's been on. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really fun. So I did lots of work helping Jamie with his recipes, doing food styling, kind of following him around the world
Yeah.
on sort of crazy missions to make the fattest town in America less fat. Had to do American accent so they didn't know I was English because we weren't that well received for the first few weeks. So
Very good.
Yeah, incredible.
We hosted a dinner party here last night for the Food Foundation, which is the amazing charity that Jamie runs. And he was kicking around last night before going off to do fun things with Groove Armada. But yeah, it was good fun, and he's here with us later today.
Gorgeous.
What are we cooking? What should we cook?
Well, we're cooking today something from my new book, which is called A Modern Way to Cook.
Yep.
And this book was kind of inspired by my interactions with all the people who'd been cooking from A Modern Way to Eat. And as a chef, you want, the recipes that people engage in and make to be these really fancy recipes, the really kind of like the ones that you came up with that you think no other chef has ever come up with.
Yeah.
But actually, in reality, the recipes that people love and that people connect with are the kind of easy recipes that take 10 or 15 minutes, or the recipes, that people associate with. And that was kind of my inspiration for writing this. It's a lot of quick and easy, veg-packed, kind of nutritious recipes, but hopefully they're joyful. You could put them in the middle of the table. You could serve them to your rugby-playing friends.
Right.
So
Now, is it true you sort of were inspired by this dish, stood in a muddy field in Glastonbury?
exactly. So we're going to be making Buddha bowls today.
I mean, it couldn't be more suitable to doing at a festival. Buddha
And I
bowls.
thought these would be a fantastic thing to do because this is, I first ate a version of this at a festival covered in mud, in all my waterproofs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, when you eat something and it's so bolstering and nourishing and delicious that, you're ready for anything again. So
Brilliant.
So that's what we're going to do.
So a Buddha bowl.
So we'll start off, a Buddha bowl. So, Buddha bowls are used, I think quite often the term is used. People talk about Buddha bowls or yoga bowls or things like that. Essentially, they're just lots of really lovely, delicious,
Good veg pots.
yeah,
Good, yeah.
nourishing things, kind of all in one go.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with the paste, which actually we need a food processor for.
We have one of
which
those.
I think someone was going to
They were bringing one.
bring up, yeah, and we're going to start with a paste to make a lovely massaman curry. I don't know if you guys have had massaman curries before. If you're in a real rush, you could actually just there's some quite good paste you can buy from the supermarket now, but I really, really like making it myself. and it's dead easy. So we've got quite a few spices here. We've got some fennel seeds, we've got some coriander seeds, we've got some cardamom, the seeds from some cardamom pods here, which the kitchen angels out the back have already picked out of the pods for me.
Very
some
good.
black peppercorns, some cloves, which you can smell,
Ooh,
really
lovely.
strong.
Christmas.
Some lovely cinnamon, garlic, and then we've got a few aromatics. We've got some ginger, and we've got some lemongrass, and a shallot and some coriander there. So all of this is going to go into the paste.
They're washing up the food
Oh,
blender.
gorgeous. So I'm just going to get a little pan on the heat here,
Yep.
and we're just
Do
going
that
to
for me.
toast off some of those spices. We're just going to toast off the whole ones. Toasting, obviously, ground spices, which I'm sure most of you know, means that they burn. But if you toast off the whole seed spices, which I love to do, and I use whole seed spices as much as I can in my cooking, then they actually just release the natural oils, and you get, much more depth.
Yeah, and that's it. Just dry pan frying them like this. They just start to release those
Exactly.
essential oils and aromatics.
So we've just got the fennel seeds, coriander seeds, black pepper, and the cardamom seeds in there. A little bit left in the bottom of there, and we'll just toast those off for a couple of minutes while I chop up the shallot and the ginger. This is going in the food processor, so you don't need to worry too much about it being too neat,
It works,
which I'm always
Thank you,
quite
Max.
happy about. We'll chop up the ginger.
And do you use a lot of spices in your cooking? Is this a...
Yeah, I do use a lot of spices in my cooking. I think when I became vegetarian 7 years ago, I realised that I was actually going to have to look at cooking in a bit of a different way.
Yeah.
I was so used to kind of building my plates around a piece of
Protein,
meat or
yeah.
a piece of fish, and then thinking about that way in cooking. And actually, when I sort of stepped away from that, I found cooking, this whole world of food actually opened up, and it was much more interesting, and I was cooking much more around mood and thinking much more around kind of layering flavour.
Yeah.
With citrus, with spice, with sweetness.
Okay.
And making sure that, there wasn't that big thing in the middle of the plate that was going to satisfy you. It was,
So to find those depths of
to
flavour
find that
somewhere
depth
else.
of flavour,
Yeah.
and to kind of make sure that all those kind of synapses, in your brain are kind of being
firing
satisfied.
away.
Exactly. So we're just going to add all of
Yeah,
our
I think-
ingredients in here.
The days of people presuming that vegetarian cooking was boring and flavourless are hopefully
Yeah,
long
well,
gone.
hopefully. There's been some amazing kind of progress,
Yeah.
definitely over the last few years, which...
We have the lovely Deliciously Ella on in a bit. And,
Exactly, yeah, and she's really
Olivia.
championing.
Yeah.
I think vegetarian is such a kind of, it's a word that has lots of sort of ungenerous, slightly worthy
Yep.
connotations, and so I do find it quite interesting that, people like Ella and other chefs
Yep.
who are essentially cooking vegetarian or vegan food don't call it that.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
because of people's
It's just food.
associations. It's just
It's
food.
food, it's not vegetarian
And that's
food.
generally what it is. It's just, it genuinely is just vibrant, delicious food. So,
I had yesterday we had the Happy Pair on. Do you know those
Oh,
guys?
yeah,
the
they're
two Irish
wonderful,
boys. They're
yeah.
kicking around somewhere. Go find them. They're on the FoodTube channel. If anyone's ever doubt the healthiness of vegetarian eating,
yeah,
those
they are
boys
definitely,
blimey.
they're a great advert for
They
it.
are.
So in there we've just got the shallot, the ginger, the coriander, those spices we toasted off, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of clove, and some chilli. And we're just going to blitz that up.
And you're wanting this just to paste down, really, are
Yeah,
you?
exactly. And I'm just going to add a little bit of coconut oil to this. Sort of make it into a bit more of a kind of
A bit more
a
of a
dense
paste to give it
paste.
some,
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't really need to add any oil in the pan, so that's great. As with all food processors,
You have to,
you need to give it a little bit of a scrape down.
Someone should invent one of those.
Yeah,
With a little automatic
yeah,
squidger downer.
a self-scraper.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should get on it.
We'll
That
get
could
on
be
that.
something for next week. It can be a collaboration.
Yeah, we're on it.
Great, so that's our paste done, and you can smell that. Those amazing kind of flavours. You can smell the
Ooh, yeah.
cloves.
Absolutely wonderful.
This is a real sort of hit of flavour, this curry. So we're going to get a pan on. I might want a little bit of a deeper one there.
Deeper one. I've got a very big one, or is that too big?
No, this is great. We'll
Great.
just use
Oh, there we are.
this lovely wok. So the base of our curry is actually going to be, and with any massaman curry, is kind of peanuts. You can use, quite a lot of people blitz them up. Some people just add a couple of tablespoons of peanut butter. We're going to use, my hair's getting caught in the microphone. We're going to use just some unsalted peanuts. It's quite important that you do use unsalted ones.
Yes, don't buy the ones you put
Yeah,
out for
exactly.
snacks,
If you put a bag of those in, then you might not have too many happy diners. But these can be a bit difficult to get hold of. If you really can't get hold of them, then you could use the salted ones. You just have to soak them in a bit of water
wash them through in a colander.
and wash them through. Yeah, exactly.
Fine, okay.
So we're going to pop all these in, and we're just going to allow those just to toast off for a
Again,
minute
it's a
or
dry
two.
pan, no oil at
Yeah.
this point, yep.
Exactly, dry pan, no oil. So we're just going to pop those in there.
And you
And
want
that's
them
gonna
just
be
to start to
gorgeous.
colour up?
Yeah, just to start to colour a
Okay,
bit. We
yeah.
don't want them to toast completely because that's not really, we don't want that really, really dense flavour. And actually, I don't know if you guys know much about kind of nuts and soaking nuts, but the kind of, that they're actually much better for us kind of in their raw state than they
Yes.
are toasted.
Yeah.
Unless you do, unless you cook them very, very, very slowly.
Oh, is that
and
right?
dry them out.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There's something called activating nuts, which I know lots of you will have probably heard about soaking nuts. We're not soaking them here, but actually when you soak a nut in water, it kind of acts like, it tricks basically the nut into thinking that it's about to grow into a plant, so it releases, this big jolt of nutrition.
Oh, right.
And it thinks, oh God, I'm turning into a plant.
Yeah, yeah,
I
time
better
to
get
get
all this
growing,
stuff
yeah.
ready, and I better release all my nutrition.
Yeah.
So, if you do have sort of almonds in your porridge, or if you do snack on nuts, then it is worth just, soaking them in a bowl of water, and you're actually really...
And how long does it take? Or does it depend on the nut?
You just have to soak them for overnight is great.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Overnight is great, and then you can just keep them in a jar in the fridge. They keep
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 days, and you're really, really kind of like sort of pimping the nutrition, basically, in your food.
Very good.
Lovely. So the nuts are toasting off there. I am just going to actually add this paste
Yep.
now. And as I said before, you can just smell that those are kind of just starting to turn a
Just
little bit.
catching, yeah.
We're going to add the paste. We already added a little bit of coconut oil in here, so we're not going to need to add any more oil to that. Thank you. And we're just going to fry off the paste with these peanuts for, a minute or two, and that's again just to release. It's a bit of a kind of softer heat now because it's got a bit of the moisture, so it's just going to allow some of those dry spices to just release some of their oils a little bit too.
And actually, this paste could be a great multi-purpose one, couldn't it? You could do all sorts
Yeah,
with this as a
absolutely.
base.
You could. It's a great. When I make this at home, I'll quite often make 3 or 4 times this amount.
Right.
And then I'll,
Stick it in a little freezer bag.
stick it in a little freezer bag, or even in kind of an ice cube tray.
Oh,
That's
yes,
quite
yeah.
a good one for paste because then, if you're not cooking for a huge amount of people, you can just pop out a couple of ice cubes worth.
Because it's one of those
So-
things. It's a bit of a. Once you've made it, you might as well make a big
Yeah.
bunch. It's no.
Yeah.
It's no more hard to do
Exactly. Exactly. So you can smell all those lovely
Yeah.
flavours there.
that. Waft to you.
Yeah.
Waft.
we
Waft
need
the
a
smell.
big kind of sort of
Yeah.
fan or
Smell-o-vision,
something.
that's
Yeah,
what we need.
exactly. And so once you've got that kind of smelling good and you can, it's been cooking for a couple of minutes, we're going to add some coconut milk. This is just a whole tin of coconut milk. I use the full fat stuff
Yeah.
because I'm
So do I.
yeah, but you could use the half fat stuff if that's your vibe. And then we're going to add some tamarind paste here. I'm not sure how many of you use tamarind at home. You can buy it in its sort of raw form. It's like a little. It's kind of shaped a bit like pieces of ginger.
Yeah,
and then
ginger, I'd say,
It's
yeah.
got big seeds in the middle. It can be a bit of a pain to kind of prepare if you use the fresh stuff. But most supermarkets now sell this tamarind paste, which is just amazing.
It's wonderful.
It's one of those ingredients that, like curry leaves or like a few other things that I just feel like you can't really fake or
If
use
you put
with
it in
anything else.
anything, everything will taste
Yeah,
better
yeah.
because it's in there.
It's got a sweetness, it's got kind of got a sharp
An
kind of
earthy
piquancy.
depth to it as well.
It's got a depth. it's one of those things, you know, just like miso paste or something like that,
Yeah,
that packs
that's another one, isn't
much
it?
punch. Yeah. So we're just going to add some of the tamarind in there. And then I've just got some potatoes here that have been parboiled just for a few minutes. We're just going to chop those in half and pop them in.
Just some lovely little new potatoes.
Exactly, lovely little new potatoes. But, you know, as with most kind of curries, you could really mix this up, you know, to take account of what's in season, whether it's sweet potatoes,
Yep.
whether it's, you know, squash, you know, just whatever.
Yeah, as we move into the autumn, butternut squash or something would be amazing in this.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's the wonderful thing about sort of vegetarian cooking. You are so tied to move with the seasons.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Which is what we all should be doing more of anyway in
Yeah,
our cooking.
yeah,
And our
absolutely.
eating. Not presuming that you can have tomatoes necessarily in this country all year round, because, or in any country actually. But yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I think you know, it's great news that we are moving in that
I
direction.
think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you see even in restaurants now more and more that with restaurateurs, you know, you have to sort of, you have to be aware of that, and you have to be aware that your diners, these guys, you know, are looking at seasonality as one of the things they're choosing a restaurant or a cookbook or anything over.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, it feels like, it's funny, there's so much information and so much in the media, but I think it can be quite difficult to tie yourself to that
Yeah.
every day and sort of practice it in your daily life. And even for me, you know, I sometimes find myself buying some blueberries in November or December, but
Yeah.
it's really good to kind of try and
And
have,
it's fine,
have
as
in the
long
back
as you
of your
know you're
mind.
doing it,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so this is just going to bubble away for a few minutes. You know, the potatoes are going to take on all the flavors, and that's one of the wonderful things about potatoes is they are kind of like sponges, aren't they? They soak up absolutely everything. And then we're going to add a few vegetables towards the end. The next thing I'm going to do is just make a little carrot pickle.
What are you looking for?
Carrots are just over here.
Yep.
Wonderful.
That's the honey.
We just might need a grater if there is one around.
Now that's the one thing I haven't found this week, but let me go and... No, Max is saying no.
No grater.
I
Okay.
think thinly sliced
Let's do
carrots.
a thinly sliced carrot pickle. Lovely. Just putting a bit of pressure on me to test my knife skills
Yeah.
here. Thanks very much,
No, no
Andrew.
worries.
Appreciate that. So we'll just do some thinly sliced carrots. Usually I grate this because, you know, it's just quick and really, really, really easy. You know, when I make curries, I think it's really important to think about not just the curry, not just that kind of, that obviously is the kind of hero of what you're eating, but I always try and think about having a pickle, having something kind of slightly citrusy or vinegary.
Because this is creamy, obviously, with the coconut.
It's creamy, it's got a lot of depth of flavour. I've got a sweet potato curry in one of my other books, and I make a
lovely,
really
yeah.
quick,
He lied. Max lied to us.
a really
Too late.
quick kind of coconut chutney to go on top, whether it's just, you know, some lovely lime or mango chutney that you might have, you know, with your regular kind of, you know, your regular sort of curry that you make at home. But I think for me, it's again that really important thing with sort of vegetarian cooking and with any kind of cooking of just thinking about all the dimensions of how you're going to eat the plate of food, about how it's going to taste, but about how it's going to feel in your mouth,
Yeah.
about where you're going to get the crunch from, where you're going to get the crispness from, where you're going to get the creaminess from, where you're going to get the sort of protein and heartiness from.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so many dimensions to a plate of food.
And that's it. It's about, as a chef, it's about combining those, isn't it? And balancing the different things on a plate.
Absolutely, yeah. It really is. And, you know, I'm a big fan of making kind of quick pickles, whether it's, you know, red cabbage. I quite often pickle that with a bit of rice wine vinegar and a bit of lime and then put it on top of soba noodles. I quite often do, you know, grated carrots. And I'll mix up the kind of vinegar I use depending on kind of what part of the world I'm cooking from, really.
Some good rice wine vinegar
yeah,
or some...
exactly.
Yeah, lovely.
So we're just adding a little bit of just regular white wine vinegar to this, a bit of honey, and this is where, you know, I'm talking about that layering flavour, having that sweetness, having that savouriness is really, really important. I'm actually going to nick that grater.
Oh, there we are.
Lovely.
It did come in useful. Thank you, Max.
For a bit of lime zest. I know, I'm sure all of you are all over using zest in your cooking, but for me, limes, lemons, oranges.
Yeah.
They're a big part of how I cook. And actually using the zest is a big part because it has got a completely different kind of dimension to the juice, hasn't it? The juice is kind of punchy. You know, you get a kick in the face from a bit of lemon or lime juice, but you get kind of a sherbety freshness that kind of pervades the whole plate of food.
Lime zest especially gives a sweetness as well in its own way, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've still got the lime available for your gin and tonic whilst cooking.
Exactly,
I find that
perfect. Perfect. Haven't had a gin and tonic for 7 months
Ah,
now, Andrew,
sorry. I shouldn't be.
Don't mention it.
Not that you're thinking about it.
No, not at all. Totally cool with it. Tell Earth Mother about this whole thing.
Yeah. Zen about the whole thing.
Yeah. So just a little bit of lime juice in there as well, and then a little pinch of salt. And if you're making a pickle quickly, your hands are really, really useful. You know, if I'd grated this, it would probably kind of all scrunch together a bit easier.
Yeah.
But you know, if you just scrunch all of this in your hands, you're getting all the flavors working,
You're
and
almost
you know,
mashing it together,
exactly.
aren't
You're
you?
doing
Yeah.
a sort of 2-minute pickle, and quite a lot of the sort of Japanese pickles that you eat. There's an amazing restaurant called Koya in Soho, and
Yes.
all of their pickles are really, really quick, amazing kind of cucumber pickles and stuff like
Actually,
that.
it's Koya that's no more. They're not there.
It is. They've got the Koya bar.
they've got the
though.
bar, they've got
They've
the
got the
bar,
bar.
yeah.
So
I love
we
that
don't have to be
place.
too sad.
No,
I
I
know.
know.
It's really, really, really wonderful.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's our little pickle already done. And then
I mean, that's, again, it's one of those so simple dishes that, again, you could put with anything. I mean, a nice piece of fish, or you're doing...
exactly. Or you could just have, you know, you could do a few different vegetables if you're having people around for a few drinks.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
those
lovely
on
nibble,
the side
yeah.
of a couple of beers would be
Happy
would
days.
be lovely. So we're just going to finish off our curry now. I've got some tofu here. I'm sure quite a lot of you, when I say the word tofu, are like, oh. But I really think that we haven't got a kind of vocabulary around tofu too much in this country. I'm sure some of you are fantastic cooks and, you know, cook with tofu, but I think, you know, there's lots of different types of tofu out there, and not many of us really
Different flavours,
understand
different ways of cooking it as well.
what they're for, why we should buy them. You know, if you bought a silken tofu, the ones that you get in the little packets that's all sort of wobbly, a bit like a blancmange, and tried to put it in this, it would be an unmitigated disaster. So, you know, I think it's really important to make sure you're buying the right one. We're using firm tofu here, which, you know, this will cut up into cubes and into chunks, a little bit like kind of Indian paneer or something like that, and it will hold its shape as it cooks through the curry. There's other amazing tofus like smoked tofu, which I use quite often,
wonderful. I've
which
tried
is
that quite
really, really
recently, yeah.
delicious. And you know, it's an incredible kind of source of protein. It's got loads, you know, it's actually really, really good for us, and
And again, it's a bit like the potatoes when you're using it in curry. It absolutely sucks up the flavour.
It totally soaks it up, yeah, which is lovely. So we're going to add some of that. That's just about a 200-gram pack.
Has anyone done much cooking with tofu? A few nods. No one's shoving their hand up in the air.
No one's a real tofu fan. I mean, if you were, I'm not sure that you would admit it anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
Then we're just going to add a few green beans.
Lovely green beans, yeah.
As I say, kind of any veg would work here,
Yep.
any kind of green veg. I always try and sort of build my cooking around having a couple of vegetables, one that's got some heartiness, whether it's squash, sweet potato, something that's got, you know, some backbone and is going to fill you up, and then something green and fresh and vibrant, you know, that you perhaps add at the end and you keep a bit crunchy, so you're keeping all that texture. So we'll just let that simmer away for a sec.
Fantastic.
I'm just going to grab a little pan. And there are quite a few sort of things to get on with when you're doing this.
Right. Okay.
But, you know, I've tried to choreograph all the recipes in this book so that there's kind of no downtime. So that if you've got this cooking, you're making a pickle, you know, you're frying off your kale, so that, you know, your cooking time is used to absolutely the best, you know, the best that it possibly can be, so that you're not sort of cooking something, going off and sitting down for half an hour.
Half an hour while you're
I try
waiting
and
something.
use, because that's how I cook. If I've got something on the stove, I don't want to walk away and leave it, but I want to use that time, you know, to be productive, to make things that are going to make what I've got in the pan better. So So that's what this is all about. And I'm actually just going to, I've got some coconut oil in here. I'm sure lots of you know all about coconut oil. Lots of people I know, my friends the Hemseys are coming on in a bit.
They're
big fans,
hey!
big fans of coconut oil out the back there. And coconut oil, I love the flavour, especially with, this kind of cooking. And it's great if you're trying to fry stuff, to get some crispiness on it, because it has the highest burning point of any oil.
Yep.
Other oils are kind of damaged when you heat them to this level, but we want to get this kale really lovely and crispy.
Oh, you can hear that.
So, in addition to kind of all the kind of nutritional benefits, it's actually fantastic for cooking stuff at this really, really kind of, strong
Yeah,
heat.
fantastic.
So, once we've done that, we're nearly there, I think.
Very good. Would you like
Yeah.
to pick a bowl or a plate? We have a nice selection for you.
You've got some gorgeous plates.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take a couple of these home.
Kim,
Lovely.
count the plates.
Lovely. So yeah, I think what this dish is all about, what I love putting together in a meal.
Yeah.
We've got some kind of heartiness and backbone from the potatoes, from the brown rice, which again, the angels backstage have cooked off for us. And then we've got, some real freshness and zinginess from the pickle. We've got some lovely kind of irony, minerally richness and crispiness from this kale. And then we're going to have a sprinkling of seeds on top. So, for me, any dinner has to be kind of a complete picture.
A complete thing.
And I think that for me, when I sort of became vegetarian and started reading a lot of vegetarian books, it was like, people were saying, oh, we'll have, a camembert and a bit of baguette. Or, a lot of things seem to be side dishes. And that's what I feel really passionately about in my cooking, that, if you're going to bother spending half an hour or 40 minutes making something, it needs to be, complete.
Yeah.
And I think,
not just a side dish, absolutely. And
exactly.
to put those vegetables and those flavours at the heart and centre of a dish.
Exactly, and thinking about colour and thinking about casting your net as wide as possible. I'm not a nutritionist, I have a massive interest in nutrition.
Yeah.
I'm conscious about what I eat, but I don't want to count calories.
No.
I don't want to have to be thinking too rigidly about nutrition. So for me, I just try and cast the net of what I eat in terms of fruits and vegetables and the rainbow of foods, and also the pulses and the grains that I eat as wide as I possibly can, because I feel like then you're hedging your bets, really. It's like betting on every horse in the race.
Yeah.
So, and this dish is a really good example of that.
And if it can simultaneously be as deliciously smelling as this is, then all the good.
Lovely. So, a little bit of salt in there. Forgotten to season
I don't know whether
stuff.
you can see this. The kale's just starting to pick up just a little bit of colour from the coconut oil frying there.
Yeah, it's kind of sort
which
of
will crisp it nicely.
Exactly. It's kind of a real sort of
Sorry if I messed with your
quick.
camera.
No, that was me. I turned it off. It's like a really quick version of kind of those kale crisps that people have been kind of going crazy about for the last few years. So, how are we doing for time?
We're all right, I
Good.
think. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, so I'm just going to plate this up. Obviously this is a big part of how I think about food as well. For a really long time, I was, a food stylist, and I spent a lot of my time making food look as beautiful as it could, and making, all of you guys look at pictures and wanting to eat the food to kind of lick the page. And I think this is a big part of how I cook, because I feel like food for me is an offering, whether I'm making it just for myself and I'm having a quick lunch, or whether I'm making it, for my family. And so actually taking the extra 2 or 3 minutes to really, rather than slop it on a plate and sit down, to think about it, because then I think you're actually being sated as your food's being brought to the table, as you're looking at...
Well, you eat with your eyes as much as anything else, so...
So we'll pop some of our lovely massaman curry on here. You've got those peanuts through there. You can really smell the tamarind, all the other delicious spices, and the cloves. It might seem a weird thing to put in a curry, but they kind of really, really sort of round things off.
Look, you're being all food stylist, moving that potato. I saw
mean,
you there.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it.
Yeah, I can't. I literally can't, even if I'm making myself a sandwich. It's quite hilarious. So then just a little bit of this lovely crispy kale. which is going to add that texture I was talking about earlier, that crunch, that
crunch, that
satisfaction.
freshness.
And then we're going to have a little bit of our lovely carrot pickle on the top there. You know, this is a monster plate of food, so perhaps don't take this as a portion size.
It's a me portion size.
Yeah. And then just some lovely seeds that are going to add a bit of crunch. We've got some poppy, we've got
seeds
some
in there.
sesame,
Yeah.
we've got some pumpkin, but you could really use whatever seeds are kind of hanging around. And then a final little flourish of coriander.
Coriander, no curry would be complete.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is my Buddha bowl.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
Anna Jones and her Buddha bowl.
Do you want to have a try?
Absolutely wonderful. I need to take a picture and then we'll have a quick try, shall we?
Gorgeous.
I'm always getting in trouble for forgetting to take the picture.
You've got to take
I'll
the
get
picture.
you lot in the back. There we are, smile. You know these days nothing exists unless it's on Twitter, of course. so.
No. Now it exists now.
And now it exists. I'm going to go for the tofu.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that depth of tamarind. It's all about tamarind.
It's all about tamarind.
You take
yeah.
one thing from this session today, take away, put tamarind paste in everything, because I love it.
Yeah, smoothies, everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask Anna to sign our wall, which we're auctioning at the end of the
Ooh,
weekend.
lovely.
For the Jamie Oliver, I've got a pen somewhere. There we are. Let's do it
Gorgeous,
quite
thank
small.
you. Yeah, will do.
And I'll ask you one more time for the amazing Anna Jones. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.